Buckle up for another episode of Ghostfacers, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Richard, and sitting shotgun, as always, is my brother in podcasting, Reed.
Help! I'm stuck in the oven, stepmother. Stepsisters, help me. Don't go to the balls.
Oh no, this is not the fairy tale that I thought it was.
Oh no, I'm stuck here. If only my foot would fit.
What?
In the shoe.
Oh.
Cinderella.
Oh no, this is not the type of episode we are recording. Let's get into this.
Ghostfacers! We're facing ghosts! We're others, we're not, we're ghosts! Ghostfacers! Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot! Ghostfacers! We're facing nightmare, we're facing dread! Ghostfacers! We're facing faceless, we're facing dead!
Welcome to Ghostfacers. Today we're discussing Season 3, Episode 5, Bedtime Stories.
Yeah.
Very excited. We are joined today by writer and story editor for Doom Patrol on HBO. Welcome, Shoshana Sachi.
Hello. Thanks
Welcome. Yes, and yes, pat on the back for you, Richard, for getting somebody's name right, I guess.
There's a lot of S's in there, and the last time I was so concerned about one piece that I didn't think about the other, and then... So
thank you for joining us, Shoshana.
Of course.
We really appreciate that. Tell us about what your sort of history with Supernatural is. I'd love to know sort of like, when did you watch it, and what's your sort of like, did you go through the whole thing? Did you watch it while it was happening? I'd love to know.
Yeah, I watched it when it was happening, I guess, on TV back in the old days when it wasn't on streaming and stuff like that. So it was like week to week, looking forward for the new episode kind of thing. And ever since I told Jeremy that, Jeremy just like decided that he's the reason why I'm a writer. He's like, oh, cool, I inspired you, and look at you now. So, but yeah, it was a huge part of like my teenhood and going into my 20s, and it was pretty wild when I met Bob Behrens and Andrew Dabb for what was they were hoping to do a spin-off called Wayward Sisters, and I met on that, and would have been writing on that if I'd gone forward. But
I think that is like the spin-off that like Supernatural has almost spin-off from a bunch of different ways.
Yes.
But that's the one I think that the fan base is like, God, if we only got Wayward Sisters.
That would have been a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, they had some great characters, and I mean, growing up watching the show Supernatural, there weren't at least in the first few seasons, there weren't a lot of like female representation.
Totally. Yeah.
And of course, not a lot of POC representation, but it was cool. So it was really cool to be, going in to meet with Andrew and Bob on this project. And it's a bummer that it didn't happen, but maybe down the line.
Yeah. So when you got to then work with Jeremy, like was that kind of like a crazy moment then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like waiting to meet him in his like little waiting room and looking at all his Supernatural stuff, it was very surreal.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. What was it about Supernatural that sort of drew you in? Because it feels like, I mean, there's a lot in Doom Patrol that I can see like the connection there, like definitely in the writing styles in some ways.
Yeah, I think Jeremy has that like cool, like quippy kind of like sardonic, sarcastic humor that really like works in both Supernatural and Doom Patrol. For me, I love horror. Initially, when I started to pursue screenwriting, I thought I was going to be a horror. I'm going to write like feature horrors and stuff like that. And I love anything with like a background in like they obviously did a lot of research into lore and like all these different like superstitions and rituals and stuff. So that really to me. I've only watched like season 1 to 6 though, so now I heard that it like completely changed and there's like lots of different moving parts stuff since then. But Bedtime Stories was definitely one of the top ones for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the show definitely goes through a bit of a renaissance.
I would argue the deeper into Supernatural you get, like in the later seasons, the more and more it's like Doom Patrol.
Yeah,
like the weird metafiction sort of thread that comes through Supernatural is very,
Yeah, that's right. They do the whole like they go into a universe where it's the show.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's
like
all sorts of like,
rights.
and just the idea of like storytelling becomes part of the show. Yeah, it's kind of wild that way.
Yeah, Jeremy specifically also brings a very different voice to the show as he comes in and becomes more prominent. Like, especially this, I think season 3 is really where he like, where he gets in deep, and it's super interesting to see his voice like on here, because you can definitely tell when it's something that he's involved with.
Interesting.
Because I believe our previous episode was a Jeremy episode, and you can, I mean, yeah, you can definitely see where his sort of voice goes in there. But yeah. It's fascinating.
That's awesome.
Let's talk about this specific episode.
Sure.
So this episode aired November 1st, 2007.
Where were you on November 1st, 2007, Shoshana?
Mask free, just running around, coughing on everyone.
I love that's the context now. It's just like anything prior to 2020. It's just like.
I mean, this is kind of our 9/11. Although we were also there for 9/11. I mean, we weren't there for 9/11.
Oh, no. Oh, no. You weren't supposed to tell them. That's crazy. 2007, November 1st. This episode was written by Catherine Humphreys, an incredible writer, directed by Mike Roll, and viewed by an estimated 3.24 million viewers.
That's
this is like
good.
Right where Supernatural like sits in sort of the middle to high end. Like this is where they're pretty steady. I think.
Solid.
Those mid threes. I had sent the promo to you. Did you get a chance to watch the promo for this episode? Because it was really interesting.
I think
it's okay. The promo was really interesting for this one. Did you watch it?
I didn't.
It's all very like spooky, like children kind of stuff,
right?
Which is sort of not what this episode is.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a lot of like sounds of toys and like laughing and stuff like that.
Oh, but it's trading on the like that kind of horror thing of like the kids know too much.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, like spooky kids and like it's like ooh, this week it's like ding 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 ding.
That's
ding.
so weird considering that like only like 3 weeks ago that was the episode.
Yeah,
like with the changeling and stuff with the kids.
Yeah, it was super interesting.
Weird.
But let's get into some of the international titles for this episode.
All right.
This one's really interesting. And season 3 in general, we've noticed the first 2 seasons, the international titles were bonkers. They were trying to figure out like, do we really drastically need to change the titles for each episode depending on the country? They sort of honing in on them in this season. For the most part, most people got it right.
I actually just have a little quick question.
Yeah.
Just maybe you know this, Shoshana, but do you know who makes the decision when a title gets like fully changed in a different language? Like, is that the decision that happens like just on distribution, like in that company, or is anyone creative involved being like, I want to preserve something about the thing I made?
Bold of you to assume I would know things. I have no idea. I think it's marketing and distribution.
Right. Yeah, I would think so, especially within those like the subsidiaries within the countries. I would.
I mean, it also makes sense because at least in the first couple of seasons, a bunch of the international titles are just spoilers.
Oh, full spoilers. Yeah, absolutely. This one is really interesting. So Brazil got it right, but it's just bedtime story.
Gotcha.
Hungary. The only real revision was it was just bedtime story.
Just one.
Yeah.
Which is inaccurate.
Yes. No. Unless they're referring to the episode itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That episode is a bedtime story.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Which contains multiples.
Right. Sure.
And then Germany is good night story.
Right. Or else.
That sounds scarier.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you better have a good night.
Yeah. Here's a bunch of terrifying moral lessons. Good night.
Good night.
Well, isn't that where the Grimm Brothers are like from?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Absolutely. It's also
so they're like, how could this be bad? These are national treasures.
Yes. Look, I don't care if you go to bed, but you're going to have a good night.
Oh shit.
And the final one, this is where they sort of go at a slightly different angle, but it's basically the same thing. It's the French title.
Okay.
It's Once Upon a Time.
You know
dot.
Oh, that's ominous. I like that.
Yeah.
The dot 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 is good. Yeah.
Ooh, spooky. Once Upon a Time. So yeah, taking the sort of concept of storytelling and then actually doing the sort of introductory
I like that.
sort of sentence.
Yeah, kind of abstract, artistic, you know.
Yeah. But fairly like down the middle.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to see, because this is sort of the last season where they're like sort of parody titles or things playing off of things. As the show goes on, they just start becoming these like monolithic titles.
Yeah, they become very long, like emo song titles of episodes.
Fall Out Boy.
100%. Yeah. Fall Out Boy had a real like effect on this show. They definitely are just like, my mom
champagne for my real friends.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe France didn't have good like bedtime stories because they don't do bedtime stories?
Oh, that's interesting.
France and Germany both have like a pretty deep fairy tale tradition.
You fall asleep as soon as you have enough wine and you just crash, right?
Yeah. We don't read stories.
Listen, let me tell you, the French do not get drunk, and I know that because I couldn't keep up when I lived there.
And that's impressive because you have a huge constitution.
It's so much different. I lived there, and I lived there in university. This is such a tangent, but I would hang out with this family, and it was supposed to be so I could practice my conversation and sit down and have like a nice meal. But they would do like the French meal, like the, salad, soup, cheese, main, like all the stuff. And you're having different little drinks with each one. And by the end of the meal, they were like talking to me, and I was just in this like echo chamber. I'd had like 12 drinks, and I was like, oh. And they were like, are you going to drive home? I was like, I can't. I'm sorry.
I've been doing that since the womb. Like, you didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, even my so-called Canadian Constitution couldn't handle it.
No, not for wine.
No, not at all.
That's incredible. So interesting about this episode, no featured music. It's only soundtrack for this.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even notice that when I was rewatching it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially for the first few seasons, there's typically at least you get a couple classic rock songs in there. But I guess it just they didn't match.
But classic rock doesn't match what's happening in this episode.
They're typically pretty.
Unless you do the Metallica like "Hush, little baby."
But they're pretty careful about that with not like bringing those elements in if it doesn't make sense.
Sure.
So, but yeah, no feature music for this episode. TV Guide describes this episode. I always love this because how are they going to spoil this? TV Guide describes this episode as Once Upon a Time. Oh, that's cute. ...
And then it stops.
Yeah, that's it. We read the French title. We thought this was enough. Sam and Dean visit a strange town where mysterious deaths seemed linked to fairy tales. Meanwhile, Sam summons the Crossroads demon and threatens her to rebuild the cult unless Dean is released from the deal. Just fully the end of the episode.
That's also not what happens.
Kind of.
He doesn't threaten her to rebuild the cult.
Oh, no.
That's fully not what happens.
No.
So it's just wrong.
He threatens her. But
He threatens her, but he threatens her with the cult.
Because that has
been rebuilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Normally they just spoiled the episode. This time they didn't watch it.
No.
They just half listened.
I feel like they took like a part of the previous episode and just tagged it on.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I love that.
Well, before we actually start getting into our thoughts on today's episode, why don't we open up Dad's journal and learn some of the real world lore on today's monster?
Ooh.
Yeah. Let's see
I used to have one of those. I used to have one.
Ooh.
A Dad's journal?
Yeah, you can buy them, I think. You might still be able to buy them, but
I can't go down this rabbit hole.
She just means she actually stole her father's diary.
yeah.
That also had demon instructions.
Yeah, ironically.
Yeah,
that was
all dads have one.
Yeah. She just finds out today that that's not like a thing.
I'm gonna call my dad after this. So let's see what the lore says about fairy tales.
Oh, that's cute.
Isn't that fun? Fairy tale, very simply, it's a short story. It's folklore. It often features magical or mythical creatures or events. The term fairy tale itself was coined in France in the 17th century by a writer named Madame Dolbear.
Okay.
If I'm remembering that correctly.
I really liked what she did with sound later on.
Yeah, Dolbear.
Yeah.
It was a lot harder back then. She had to run around the room.
Yeah, but you still, like, in your chair, you were just like, oh.
God damn it. So unlike other types of stories like legends or epics, fairy tales don't assign themselves to like a particular historical time. Like you can sort of discern when a fairy tale might be set just based on circumstances, but like Homer's Iliad is like set at a particular time because it's referencing at least some people that were real or some events that were real, or like you're anchoring it at like an actual moment in history, even if the legend itself veers off into other things.
Totally.
So fairy tales don't do that. Fun fact, before the development of like the actual recognized genre of fantasy writing, things like The Hobbit and Wizard of Oz were considered fairy tales.
Really?
Because there just wasn't a term for it. Tolkien described like an aspect of like fairy storytelling as being world building and things that we now ascribe to fantasy.
Oh, wow.
Before there was a fantasy genre recognized as its own thing.
God, how demeaning.
They were considered like fairy tales, like fairy stories.
Oh, well, are you, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a writer. Oh, like, do you do like science fiction? Do you do war stories? No, I talk about these like worlds from the past, but using magic. Oh, you're a fairy tale writer?
I know, but then what? Like a metal thing to turn around and be like, yeah, but it's about like a mountain of fire.
Oh, I don't know. If
just like all other fairy tales. Then.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if children would like that.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you say that.
I mean, The Hobbit was written as like a children's story. But
fairy tales were not for kids until very recently, or at least not exclusively for kids until very recently. So the German word for it is Märchen, which means little story. There's a lot of like oral tradition in fairy tales. So these are stories that be like passed down from generations, and that's not to say none of them were ever written down before. That would happen, but it was more of an oral tradition. It's not until you get to things like the 1001 Arabian Nights or the Grimm fairy tales that they're like collecting a mass of fairy tales into like these tomes and sort of like codifying them a little bit. So other pieces of scattered literature are like throughout history of like written down fairy tales. Fun fact, 17th century France became like a real fad to engage with fairy tales. So in like Paris salons, like women would gather in groups and share stories and play parlor games with fairy tales. And it was sort of like an early subversion of some like gender expectations, because at the time women generally were not permitted to have formal educations and stuff like that, but they would engage in these like games where it's like take a fairy tale, change it. So they were like participating in like a creative process and an oral tradition and things like that, and actually some great female writers emerged from those things.
Oh wow.
So it was sort of like a little bit of like a fuck you kind of thing, which is cool.
Very French.
It also spawned like the flowery language we associate with fairy tales, because that was a way to obscure like subversive takes or messaging. You'd sort of flounce up the language, and then people wouldn't really be hearing what you were saying, like what the actual message of your story was. So that's kind of where that comes from. So the Brothers Grimm, we have to talk about them. They were really only interested in preserving German folk and fairy tales. How
very German of them.
Yeah,
there's one type of story that's important.
The writing was really on the wall. They actually rejected recording tales if they deemed them to have been originated or to be like culturally more rooted elsewhere. So Sleeping Beauty almost didn't make it into Grimm fairy tales for this reason, because it's based on a French story. The author's name escapes me at the moment. It's very famous. But one of the Grimm brothers convinced the other that like the concept, the allegory of the sleeping princess was a German idea. So they were like, all right, keep it in.
Oh God, I don't like to know where that comes from.
Something about kissing women when they're sleeping is a German thing. I don't know.
Yeah, Jesus, Germany.
Yeah. No, the true idea of of drugging a sleeping woman, and then,
It's a good night story.
yeah. for someone.
Lord. The Grimm brothers, they were the first to sort of alter the stories for a more child audience. They had published their fairy tales, and then they sort of went back and revised them and republished them and made some changes because there were complaints specifically about sexual content. So apparently in Rapunzel, there's some reference after the prince visits her to her clothes growing tighter, like she gets pregnant. And they removed that, but weirdly they amped up the violence. People were like, violence is fine, but my kids cannot know that sex is a thing.
Wow.
Which I mean, that tracks.
Today, yeah,
that tracks. Like think of what can cartoons get away with? Even like something like the Looney Tunes. What could they get away with?
Yeah.
You can like shoot someone in the face or explode them or crush them with a rock.
Yeah.
But like, how come Wile E. Coyote never fucks?
Or the villain from Hunchback of Notre Dame, how terrifying that guy is.
I mean, in its own Disney sanitized way, that's a relatively bold move for them. For his motivation to be, I will hook up with Esmeralda. That's a pretty because you can only change a book so much, you know. So they would. No limit to violence or stuff like that. Apparently there's like a psychological argument that sanitizing the violence out of fairy tales actually like infringes on kids' ability to derive symbolic meaning from them. Like, it's not that kids would look at it and go, if someone does me wrong, I'll put them in an oven and kill them. Mm-hmm. But like the heightened violence is their way of like really discerning good from bad and stuff like that. And when you flatten it all out, you kind of like erase the morality of a fairy tale.
Oh, interesting.
Which is sort of fascinating. Feels almost counterintuitive. But,
Billy, why are you beating that boy to death? Oh, he stole something from me, so he's got to pay. I'm morally correct.
He's a witch.
Yeah.
Okay, last couple of things here. The Grimm brothers believed that European and Germanic folktales like tied together like all of Europe in like an unconscious history. Mm-hmm. And there's some anthropological evidence that supports that these allegories, these archetypes and that do exist. This is like sort of like Carl Jung kind of thing, right? The collective unconscious and archetypes and stuff
I hear
like
what
that.
you're saying, but German stories are only German stories.
Yes. They started in Germany, but they're for everyone.
Yeah, for everyone. As long as you're German, and we have this checklist actually. Just take a look at the checklist. There's just very specific details that we need you to sort of follow under. It's fine.
I'm so creeped out by this character of like the chill fascist German.
Oh yeah, no. Books for everyone, as long as you're just under these specific criteria.
He's like a nice guy, German guy.
Yeah,
I'm chill. I'm with it. Have some schnitzel.
I don't think I like German good cop.
No, I don't. Look, we both want the same things, okay?
I don't know how long I can control my friend over here.
Yeah, he's pretty crazy. He's kind of an artist, but I'm sure he'll be fine.
Jeez Louise. I mean, at least you made him the bad cop, I guess.
Yeah, we're just good guys.
Okay, my last thing. Jesus Christ. Some of these stories are very old.
Okay.
Jack and the Beanstalk, a version of it, or tales like it, go back like over 5,000 years. Beauty and the Beast and Rumpelstiltskin, about 4,000 years.
Worst name for a kid ever.
Tale of like the Swan Maiden.
Yeah.
Could go back to like prehistoric, like Paleolithic era. So like because they're dealing with archetypes and things like that, and it's about teaching lessons and that sort of thing. Some of these stories are like they're as old as like human culture.
So that's all we were trying to do. We were just trying to teach a lesson. I don't understand.
That's so interesting. That's cool.
Absolutely. Very interesting. Fairy tales. Who would have known?
There you go.
That's the monster this week.
You're the one that you were supposed to get away from.
I know, but I couldn't
monster.
find the words, and so I just went back. I reverted to it's a monster this week. Let's talk about today's actual episode.
Let's do it.
Shoshana, when was the last time you watched this episode?
Oh my God, probably. I don't think I've done a rewatch of Bedtime stories recently, so
Probably been a while, right? Like,
It's been a while, yeah.
it's probably interesting just even seeing the sort of like then that now when you start looking at the flashbacks and remembering like what happened during that time. They do a lot in those first 3 seasons. Like, like it pumps. I mean, they always do. I mean, that's the
It's
show's
funny
classic.
because I
jumping the
only
shark.
just watched this entire show since COVID.
Yeah, it's been like not even like a year.
Yeah, basically. Like since COVID.
Yeah.
But even I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this one. Yeah, it's been a while.
The then from this episode is a flashing basically on histories of the cult. So already we have continuity of the cult, even though it's a thing that we've only really sort of starting to grasp. We already have sort of a history of it.
Yeah.
It's a thing that they brought in through most of the series already, which is like there's this really magical gun. We don't really fully know how it works. We know it can kind of kill out anything, but the sort of limits we've taken to that are demons.
They did use it on Vamp.
Oh, that's right.
First time they use it on a Vamp. And then also it was like you only have X number of bullets. We don't know which part of this is enchanted, that sort of thing.
And the last bullet was used at the end of season 2
to kill Azazel.
But then in our previous episode before this, we were figuring out how to get it working.
Yes.
And Ruby took it and was like, "I'll help you.
Yes,
I'll fix this." So we know that the gun is
they
fixed.
do.
Yeah.
They get it working.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And basically the other sort of then pieces were just from the previous episode. Mostly it was just the gun and what happened. The last episode. So we get right into the episode. Immediately start telling a fairy tale story. We start with late night at a construction site. As we sort of are like even panning into the shot, you'll see there was like a future development sign, and even then it says "Once Upon a Time."
Yes,
on the sign. Very cute. Sort of highlighting the fairy tale nature of this story. And we see 3 men. I love this. Immediately, 3 construction guys, kind of portly, talking about construction material.
This whole scene really makes me laugh because I mean we're setting up the fairy tale thing, obviously. So it's always going to be a little tongue-in-cheek or a little campy, but like just the way that they also have to set these guys up, and the one is like, "I'm the cinder block guy, you know this, my brothers." Just the way they talk to each other is very fun. Or the guy's like holds up the piece of wood that's fully curved and he's like, "Look at this."
That I've never gotten that curved of a piece of wood. I've gotten curved pieces that I'm pissed
know where
about.
he got it from.
I know that was jarring for me too. Like I was just like, what happened to this people?
I like the idea that
Tell me that story.
Yeah.
it's not just like a little twisted, which is all you need for it to be useless for construction.
But I guess for like the visuals of TV,
I love it.
I'll be honest. The first time I watched this, I didn't make the connection to the 3 pigs.
Well, I think, I don't know if I missed it. We don't get like, is the third brother like the accountant? Is he like the paper guy? Is that supposed to be like straw or that sort of thing? Because that was the piece where I was like, wood, stone, like brick. But I was like, did I miss a line or something?
No, they basically just sort of skip over it.
Right.
The guy makes does make a comment about the building, and that at one gust of wind, the whole place will go blow over. What incredible fun writing to be able to get to do.
I would, I mean, if you're a writer, this feels like this would be like a very fun episode to get it on.
Like take fairy tale writing and like fit it into this construction. I mean, it's very fun. I like that a lot. So we have Jack, Emmett, and Kyle sort of offering different opinions about this construction.
Which
project.
are the pigs' names from the Grimm fairy tales?
Are they? Oh, that fully sounds like Emmett.
Jack,
totally.
Emmett, and Kyle are not German names.
Well, that makes sense.
Whatever. So yeah, basically they have this argument. Kyle then hears a suspicious growling nearby, but when he investigates, he kind of finds nothing. But he does even, I totally missed this until this watch because I was watching it over and over again, but he snorts like a pig.
Yes. Yeah. When he doesn't find anything, he gives a little like...
So cute. I really liked that.
This is a classic Supernatural, like, misdirect too, where he hears a sound from one spot, checks it out, nothing's there, and then you think it's going to be behind. Like, Supernatural does it so often that it actually makes it so you can't guess what's going to happen because they're constantly undoing. Like, is it 2 fakes? Is it 3 fakes?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah.
I always really like that. It's a great like classic horror thing. Right?
I love it.
The fake out. So the three men prepare to leave when Jack is attacked by an unseen creature. Emmett rushes to help Jack, but Kyle runs behind a pile of bricks, terrified as screams echo around him.
Yeah.
When it goes silent, he peers out to see the corpses of his brothers. A low growling alerts him, and he screams and is attacked.
Yeah.
So one thing is they all get attacked while hiding near the material that they like.
Right.
So one guy gets wood, the one guy gets brick. Like they actually do get attacked by their sort of counterpart
Which is cute.
materials.
Also, the first brother gets like exploded. We get like the supernatural blood burst on the truck. Like,
I love that. I don't know what attack in the world causes that blood splatter, but they use it so often in this show. I'm like, it's just like a dagger to the like veins is the only thing I could think of that actually would cause that. Like they love, I mean, I love the like unnecessary gore.
Yeah.
Always. And this one's really fun. A cool fun fact here is that Michael Coleman, who plays one of the three pigs, as well in the 2011 TV series Once Upon a Time, he plays Happy, one of the seven dwarves.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So it's not his first time being in a thing. So
I will say I attempted once to watch that show and I couldn't. This episode of Supernatural is the only kind of version I'll accept of like adapting fairy tales.
What's that video game with like the Disney characters?
Oh, Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, that's what Once Upon a Time feels like to me.
Okay, I've never seen it. So
it's a really interesting show because it basically is just like, what if all of the fairy tales existed in this one place?
But also, I feel crazy saying this. It does not employ the subtlety of this episode of Supernatural. It's a little, maybe too forthright.
It's like, oh my God, here comes Elsa from Frozen TM.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, and that's basically our opening of this episode.
I love that.
Great
I love these guys
classic.
that play the brothers / the little pigs. I think they're great. This is a great setup. It both feels like a classic Supernatural ep, and it's also very clearly doing the Three Little Pigs.
Shoshana, what did you
Remind me,
think? Yeah.
Did they all die? Like
one survived.
The brick
guy,
guy survives. Yeah.
Brick's stronger, right? Brick survives.
Yeah, it's canon.
Exactly.
It didn't even have to like build. He just needed to be near the bricks and have bricks in his heart.
Yeah, that's right.
He's got bricks in his heart. Shoshana, what did you think about this opening?
Yeah, I mean, it was classic Supernatural. I hadn't turned on like a Supernatural episode in a while, so this felt like getting right back into it with all the, like you said, the sneaking around, the hearing the thing, you know, it was, and the blood splatter was very much like this is the appetizer to a Supernatural meal.
Yeah.
Totally.
A nice warm blanket.
Yes, exactly. And then to slip inside the sheets, we go back to the Impala. We get our boys. The cult has now been restored. Sam is now arguing with Dean that they should
They look
use it.
so cute and young.
Oh my God, I know.
Like that so long.
They haven't become grizzled yet.
It's funny, like even just looking at like the promo images and stuff from season 15, where it's like the two of us have been eating burgers and banging chicks for 15 years. I'm 40, and they're like punching demons and stuff.
So funny. But yeah, so they're basically going like, we've got this gun. Let's go after the Crossroads demon because we can just threaten them and get this all undone, right? Like that should be easy as that.
I mean, this is very desperate, Sam, because this is a bad plan.
Yeah.
And even Dean recognizes that. Like Sam's just like, we'll kill the demon, then there's no more deal. And it's like, I bet it's not that easy.
Yeah. That seems a bit simple. Someone would have figured that out by now, right? And he's very much just like, at the end of the day, we were warned that if we try anything like this, you go. Like,
Well, yeah, Dean's point isn't even that they shouldn't try something, but he's saying we have to try something that will work, because if we try it and fail, we're both dead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he deflects the argument by asking Sam for details of the killings, which they suspect a werewolf may be responsible for. So they heard about the three guys, the construction guys, and they basically they're already on their way to investigate it. So he's just sort of subverting it, and then we flash to the hospital, where we get Kyle. The classic fairy tale character, Kyle. Yeah.
The brick pig.
Yeah. When talking to Kyle, Dean introduces himself and Sam as Detective Plant and Detective Page. If you closely look at Dean's ID, it says Detective Robert Plant. Robert Plant, obviously the lead singer, and Jimmy Page is the lead guitarist for the band Led Zeppelin.
Have they not used Plant and Page yet on the show?
I feel like they must have.
They must have. There's no way they got to season 3. Yeah.
Yeah. That seems like the classic one for them for sure. But also, like, you're talking mostly to like dudes in their like 30s and 40s. I feel like somebody's gonna be like, "Whoa, wait, you guys realize that's Led Zeppelin, right?" Like, it seems like a bit obvious of them. But
who, me? No, never heard of them.
Yeah, who is that? Some sort of rock band? So Kyle is the one who survived this attack that killed Jack and Emmett, revealed to be his brother. So this is when we actually find out.
And he says like he was not even like fully attacked. Like the guy just let him go. And he also says it was a guy, not
because they keep asking, because they think that it's a werewolf, right? They keep asking questions like.
And I think they play it like they think he's trying not to sound crazy, so they're like, "What about his fingernails?" And he's like, "They're normal finger."
Even just like, does he have big teeth? Like, it almost sounds like they're asking about Red Riding Hood.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
But the best part of this is when because the guy immediately goes, "Oh, I've been waiting for you guys all day," and they're like, "You have?" They're like, "You're the sketch artist, right?" Forcing Sam to then. Well, Dean immediately is like, "Oh yeah, Sam's the sketch artist."
I mean, classic Dean.
Yeah. So Sam has to start asking about characteristics, which so funny. It's like, how tall was he? What about his hair?
But also just like so portraying he's not a sketch artist. He's like, what color were his eyes? And he just has like a gray pencil. It's like you could just write words down instead of drawing. Like,
I'll take this later and then make the sketch.
I actually had that thought while I was watching this. I was like, why didn't he do that?
Yeah.
He's not good at thinking on his feet.
No, exactly. When the interview concludes, then Kyle goes, "Well, I get to see the sketch, right? Like, I have to know that if you've got the thing." And then he says like, yeah. And it's just like a bunch of circles. Like, and I couldn't find anything online to actually prove this theory, but I wonder if that's just Sam drew. Like, if Jared actually just drew that.
Probably, because right away when he flips open, you see him just like kind of making weird shapes on the
very
notepad.
Funny. But yeah, and then he gets embarrassed, and they basically just both leave. We then cut to a forest. Next, we have this woman, Julie Watson, and her husband Ken, who are getting lost in the wood, basically, just like fully off the trail. No idea what they're doing.
And he's such a goddamn vintage 2007 man about it, too.
Yeah.
We'll go this way. The trail will open.
Fully just like, don't worry, I'm not lost. We're just taking the long road.
Power bars, just,
I wish I could say I've never done that.
Oh, no.
Ate all the power bars?
I mean, I've definitely eaten all the power bars. I've also just insisted that my directional sense is enough.
I feel like it's in the male DNA, like it's in the Y chromosome.
Eat all the food and assume that we know what we're doing.
It feels like an evolutionary disadvantage to be this confident.
Yeah, it's surprising that we've lasted this long. It makes sense that women are taking over, as it should be.
Yeah. Let's right this ship.
Yes, please, God. It is a unique thing about where we live. It's predominantly women in power, and way more women than there is men up here. We get really lucky in this town.
Yeah, that's true.
So they come upon a small house, and there's a sweet old lady who comes outside.
Yep.
Just run. If I came across a house in the middle of nowhere in the forest and I'm lost, just run.
because it's also it's not like the house is like super well maintained.
No,
Like
it's all rickety.
it's not like a shit show like The Benders or something like that, but it's like it looks quasi run down enough that I wouldn't immediately be like, great, let's go make ourselves known.
Yeah. What's interesting to like we
Maybe
have,
I watch too much TV. Maybe I can't trust anymore.
I mean, that's like just even living here, like occasionally you come upon a weird old structure in the middle of nowhere. Like that's a very common thing. And I, for the most part, stay away from those things.
Yeah, I wouldn't go near it.
Like, it seems like a mistake. But of course, they've been walking for a long time. This fat piece of shit sees the pie.
Their marriage is on the line.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's just like, he literally gets like, it feels like he gets cartoon eyes and like the smell thing travels to his nose.
I know, it would be, he's just this far away from doing the full like Looney Tunes like
up.
float, follow the scent.
He sees a pie cooling on the windowsill, which is so sus.
Yeah, very sus. That's like food from a random person.
Exactly. And even of course the woman has enough sense to be like, this seems weird, and he's like, what's this old lady gonna do?
This whole house is basically like a cardboard box with a stick propping it up and like piece of food underneath.
And so they're just like, let's go inside. So we then show them just finishing their meal.
Yeah.
And they're like, even though the lady's like, do you want any more? And he's like, I couldn't eat it anymore. And then they begin to immediately like writhe in pain and get blurry vision.
Yeah, she's poisoned them.
And she, they like clock it right as it's happening. They're like, did you? Well, the woman does. She's like, did you drug us?
Yeah.
As they sort of like start collapsing to the ground. And on a dime, the woman just like casually goes, grabs a huge like kitchen knife, and just like doop doop doop. She's like, everything's gonna be fine. Like, this
old woman is, I think, the scariest killer I've seen on the show thus far in the rewatch.
100%.
Yeah, she's so happy. She doesn't drop like the pleasant grandma thing when she goes murderous. She keeps it, and it's so much worse.
Just the like. Just like the very like a sweet old lady stabbing something, like just slashing and stabbing this guy. I think this scene has stayed with me throughout all of the show. Like I always go back to thinking about this scene. It's like it's a good moment. Me.
And also like the sun is shining outside,
which is terrifying as well.
It's not like a
nighttime spooky moment. It's like you're never safe, even inside of an sweet old lady's house with a small child standing outside that we get to briefly see.
Our first glimpse of like the creepy kid.
Yeah. We then go to the hospital. Sam and Dean return to the hospital to question Julie. Now they find out that she is there under some weird suspicious activities. They speak to the doctor on the way to go see her, who was comforting her as they sort of walked into the room, and the doctor's like, what the hell's going on? And they're like, look, we're gonna solve this. Don't worry, we're on the case. They then talk to the woman. She talks about, she specifically uses the framing. The old lady just was carving up her husband.
Yeah.
Boy.
Gotta get that new pie on the windowsill.
Oh no, it's people too. Oh no.
Soylent pie.
Yeah. Goodness gracious! What a ridiculous thing to call a drink supplement thing is Soylent.
Did that come out first though, and then the movie is Soylent Green, or
no? That Soylent is like a new thing.
Yeah, Soylent's a new thing.
So they knowing that Soylent Green is out there.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah. It's just,
well, I mean, but this is the capitalist nightmare that we live in now. It probably is made of people, and everyone's like, well, but it's only like $3 a bottle, and you go,
it's a meal replacement.
Made from soy.
Yeah. I wish it was made from people.
Oh God, yeah. Jesus, I could not believe it. So she says that she got out because she pushed the old woman who knocked against.
And she said she didn't eat as much of the pie as her fat ass husband, so she wasn't as drugged as he was.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. She's like, to be honest, this was a relief. That was some real weight off my marriage and shoulders.
Yeah.
Also seeing that she mentions that she did see a young girl outside, that she's like, did you guys see the young girl? Like, what happened to her?
Fun detail, though, when she says she pushed the old woman, the old woman hit her head on the stove and died. And then Hansel and Gretel, they throw the witch in the oven and kill her. So that's another one of those little...
well, was that too dark to do in this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to have someone in a bed recovering being like, oh, I fucking burned her would be maybe too much.
I made her into a pie.
Did that old woman scene like shake you as much as it shook me, Shoshana?
What? Sorry?
Did that scene like stay with you? Like, do you remember how fucked up that scene was?
Yeah, I think I mean, there's so many like fucked up old cooking kids. I think there's at least a couple more down the line.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, old people are the problem, right? That's what we're figuring out here, right?
I don't know. You're sounding a little German right now.
I'm just saying, at a certain age, we just send them out. This seems we figured out the problem here, you guys.
No, you send them out. They make little cottages in the woods.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Now you're part of the problem.
Oh yeah, no. That's okay. Yeah, no. We turned them into Soylent Green, and that's this is perfect. I think you know what? I take back what I said about Soylent. It makes sense now. I'm fully in support of this. We'll eat the old and the rich. That's fine.
Now for a little break. This episode is sponsored by Soylent.
We're a podcast. That's not unbelievable.
Drink it down. Don't miss your neighbors.
Yeah. Don't ask questions. Drink your soup. All right. So they talk to Julie and basically find out that there was this young girl that there's a connection here. This young girl that they want to figure out maybe what's the deal with her. So they figure they need to go back to this old woman's house. That's the sort of next big step, right? So they check the old lady's house and find high EMF readings. So they're like, something spooktacular is happening here, right? Like something is off. Indicating that there was probably some sort of spirit here. They're not sure if it was the old lady,
but it was only
possession.
At the window. It wasn't anywhere else. So they were like, is a ghost like possessing people and making them do things? They're trying to throw some different ideas out there.
But that's when Sam specifically speculates that the cases that resemble the fairy tales.
Yes.
The three brothers as the little pigs, and the woman and her boyfriend as Hansel and Gretel, and that maybe a spirit is controlling people involved with the murders. Yeah. So Dean's pretty skeptical, and Sam compares to the darkness of the Grimm fairy tales. It's just like he's like, fairy tales, come on.
That it's not like the Disney versions, that the Grimm ones were very violent and horrific.
Yeah, there's a really, really unfortunate 2007 line that happens here where Dean goes, God, he says, dude, could you be more gay?
And then he says, don't answer that, which is somehow worse.
Yeah, no, but then it's like going, because that's a bad thing.
It's funny because this show doesn't.
They never do stuff like this.
The show doesn't like lean on that as humor, but every few episodes you get like that one where they show up at the motel and they go two queens, and the kid goes two queens. Like they always somehow come back to that well in these early seasons, but it's not consistent enough to be like that was the humor of the show. It's almost, I don't know, it's weird. I don't know why it pops up.
My guess is that the first few seasons especially, I wonder if it's people who don't necessarily like understand that like brother or like bro-y talk and sort of cross that line sometimes, because that definitely is the way that like dudes can be seen spoken to,
or dudes /did.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that it's sort of like, if you sort of like, I wonder if it's a comfort in just understanding that sort of brotherly dialogue, that if you aren't associated with it and they haven't really created the Bible for what are the yes or no's in those types of conversations, it only pops up occasionally, and it does feel really outside of their sort of
because
banter.
I think it also only pops up when it doesn't feel like it's dialogue. Like in this one, Dean says it, there's a pause, it's just, like it just cuts to Sam, and then it cuts back to Dean and goes, don't tell me, and then they don't bring it up again. Like it almost always feels like tacked on, like it's not in the scene.
Yeah, it's probably someone's experience as well. They were like sharing or putting into their not realizing that, just because you lived through like your brother and you making some off-color jokes, let's not.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't make sense for these characters or for this show, right?
I mean, this episode moves away from it right away. But I mean, especially watching it now, it's just like, we almost made it through.
Such a sore thumb, right? And they've
But
definitely.
also, I'm just realizing. So grandma just, she just died, and no one because she was possessed, right? So this poor grandma just got ice for no reason.
Yeah, so somewhere there's like a family member that's being informed that their grandmother carved up a person and then was murdered.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah.
Also, did she already live in the middle of the woods?
Also, yeah, that's not still an active crime scene. Yeah. There wasn't even tape or anything.
No.
Huh.
Yeah, just thinking about that, there's a spin-off somewhere where it's just like, why did grandma lose her mind like that?
There's a web series I would watch. Is just like the fallout from. I mean, that's how we get the mirror salesman from season 1.
We talk about it sometimes that the infrastructure of a world of magic is sort of interesting.
That's my favorite.
There's something interesting about a character like Bella Talbot from this season who is running black market trade in occult items and stuff like that, or that there's extra hunters in that. It would be funny if there was if the hunters had more of a network, this would be their Men in Black style cleanup crew that we have to go and psychologically explain to these people what happened.
Oh yeah,
and be monsters are real. Your grandma was possessed. I'm sorry she murdered a guy. See ya.
It's the TVA for the
TVA. Yeah, exactly.
Get Warner Brothers on the phone.
We finally found. I think we've got an idea for a supernatural spinoff. I don't know if you've ever thought about that.
It's about bureaucracy.
Yeah. As the guys are sort of talking about the confusion around this case, they end up they find a frog from the beginning of the episode again. This toad.
Yes. Yeah. We keep. In a couple of scenes, we've seen this little.
Yeah, exactly. And then they notice that there is a pumpkin and some mice outside of a house.
Yeah, which is, I mean, Jesus, just mice out in the daylight. Do people even run this town anymore?
What's interesting though is this episode specifically obviously surrounds around fairy tales coming to life, but it's specifically the Grimm fairy tales.
Yes.
So, however, the version of Cinderella referenced in this story, the pumpkin, the mice, Cinderella in prison, actually comes from the French version of the tale by Perrault.
Perrault is the guy whose name I couldn't think of earlier. Thank you.
Grimm's version actually doesn't have any of those elements into it. So,
well, yeah. If you're German and you're writing a story, why would it be fun?
Yeah. No, it's rats, and she was like,
it's rats, and it's a squash.
Yeah.
Squash. I love that a squash is less fun to you.
That speaks volumes.
My ranking of fun gourds.
From gourd to bad.
Oh God.
Yes.
Damn it, that was
your
pretty
next
good.
podcast.
Yeah.
Oh. Hot takes on gourds. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, during the fall season. Come on.
Yeah.
You look. I mean, we've got a Patreon.
No subject is too niche.
Yeah, that's right. We've got a Patreon. We're running out of ideas. I'll take it. Oh my God, that's next year's Eatgist.
I thought it was going to be what could we fit in my air fryer.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gourds. Yep, you're right. Let's air fry a pumpkin.
Yeah, I'll send you your e-transfer after this, Shoshana. So just as in Cinderella, they find a young woman inside of this house so they basically see the situation and immediately break in.
Yeah, I mean, you got to move the episode along, but it is funny that they see some of the elements of Cinderella. They just go, we should bust into this house, and it just happens to be at a moment where a vague crime has occurred.
But also, it's not like it's unbelievable that a pumpkin's outside of the house, because Dean specifically says, oh yeah, it's close to Halloween.
Yeah. So they're just kicking in the door, and they're like, oh, thank God someone is handcuffed to the oven.
Yeah, this is the fourth house. This episode actually aired the day after Halloween, too.
Yes. November 1st is the day after Halloween.
But that's interesting.
Okay.
So, yeah, they find this woman who specifically their stepmother suddenly chained and beat her.
Yeah.
Not great. Dean sees the specter of the young girl though inside this house. So now he's seeing the same thing that the woman Julie had seen prior.
I kind of wish that this scene had some of like the crazy exposition dialogue of the first scene with the three little pigs, where she's like, "Oh, my stepmother chained me up. Also, my stepsisters are fucking ugly." Just
Good thing this episode didn't
just
come
to make it like we're like, this is definitely the Cinderella house.
Good thing it didn't come out now. It'd be like, stepsister, I'm stuck.
Oh no.
She is stuck on the oven.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm trying to get this pie out and I just can't.
This is an episode that could only be written in 2007.
Yes, exactly.
Not be tainted by the world of porn.
So he follows this girl around the house. Then he finally confronts her in a room, and she just basically like disapparates like a ghost does in all of Supernatural.
Yeah.
But leaves behind a red apple, directly connecting to Snow White.
Yeah, Dean is like, "Apple, Sammy, what does this mean?" And he's like, "It's Snow White." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw the porn version of that."
Yeah, he does say that. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, see, porn was still, in there somewhere.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So what would the dwarves' names be? Like Horny, Spanky, Chokey,
Cummy. Oh yeah, he's the like the
They'd be like, "Hi ho."
Look at this. You really missed your calling.
Yeah, I could have been a porn writer.
You keep saying that so often. I hire you. You work for me as a writer, and you keep saying that.
Yeah.
You need to just get over it.
How hard is it to get a porn writing gig? I'm sure you could do that on the side.
I was actually turned down from a porn writing gig because I insist on trying to write like I insist on trying to write full parodies, like not.
It's not a parody.
Like
it's
a tonal parody. Like I wrote a full episode of Frasier that was a porn.
Oh my God, amazing.
I got this very kind of polite, confused email back that was like, "We can't do anything with this."
I'm going to need you to email that to me.
Do you have it?
It's buried somewhere.
You need to find it because that is an episode.
It's buried somewhere. I wrote a full episode script of Frasier. There's a whole scene where the dad fucks the chair.
How about this? If you find it, we have Shoshana come back on and we do a dramatic reading.
Yeah, sure. That works. Yeah.
So down.
That's so
I'll be
funny.
the dog.
Tons of female characters. Dope.
I did write a screen direction that the dog watches that chair scene.
Can I be the chair? I just want someone to sit on me, okay?
Yeah. Well, yeah, just wait until you see what I did with the tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
Love it.
Oh no, scrambled eggs.
Oh,
That's not good. There's an abortion scene?
no, Jesus, good Lord.
Oh, no. So, okay, Jesus, man. How does this turn into the filthiest episode we've done?
Well, it's just because of Dean. I blame Dean.
Yeah, it's Dean's fault. So much like in Snow White, the stepmother had poisoned the Snow White with the red apple.
So we should mention that they had gone to the library to try and find like records of a girl matching this description who died.
Yes.
And they didn't find one. And then this Snow White thing is sort of the key because the whole point in Snow White is that she doesn't actually die.
Yes.
She's in like
coma.
the sleep like death, right? Which, coma.
Exactly.
So that kind of redirects their search a little.
Yeah. God, I know that feeling.
Sleep like death.
Yeah. So we go to the hospital. The boys start trying to find the girl who may have gone missing or been killed in the area, but to no avail. They return to the hospital to check for the children there because maybe there's an actual like small child because they keep seeing this kid, so they assume that it's also a kid, right? A nurse tells them that one of the staff, Dr. Garrison, actually has a daughter, Callie, who has been in a coma since she was 8. Because they were like, oh yeah, there's just been this girl who's been here this whole time, and they're like, oh really, like is it a patient? They're like, no, it's the daughter of this doctor.
And it's she's been there for like a decade.
Yeah.
This is a weird detail to harp on, but I wonder if Shoshana or you noticed it, but like, does the hospital bring in like an esthetician? Because
Oh,
her
yeah.
eyebrows,
Yeah,
her
makeup
eyebrows were immaculate.
Her makeup, her hair.
Or is this a creepy thing that dad does?
Yeah, dad does it maybe.
Like,
Yeah,
at
which,
what point
you
did he
know.
start putting lipstick on her? Like,
Yeah.
It was jarring. Like they don't even pretend like her hair is kind of messy or anything. But it's, I
She
guess,
didn't have, like the apparatuses that
yeah.
a coma patient would have.
But again, I guess it's because it's the Snow White of it all that
Right.
she's supposed to be this sort of pristine, kind of perfect.
so you're saying that drinking bleach will like sustain my body forever and
Yeah.
also cure me
It
from
also
COVID.
gets rid of COVID.
Yeah. Oh, this is perfect. But they find the doctor
Yes.
reading fairy tales to his daughter, who's now a young woman.
Yeah.
Who looks exactly like an older version of the spirit that they had seen.
Yes.
The doctor begins to read the story of the big bad wolf. As this is happening, we flash to an old woman who's attacked by putting groceries. Wow, this episode really hates old women. Putting groceries into a car, and this like giant dude comes in. He's bad because he's got a cut off hoodie.
This bad wolf tattoo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, fun fact: the Three Little Pigs guy,
yeah.
Kyle Brickman,
Yeah.
he describes his wolf attacker as having a Wile E. Coyote tattoo.
Yeah.
This guy has the Wile E. Coyote tattoo,
it's the same.
meaning that like this girl's ghostly thing is establishing like canon. She's like, I can't have more than one wolf. There's one wolf.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same guy that she's possessing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about it. Yeah. Does that mean that canonically in the fairy tales it's also the same wolf?
Yeah.
Just one bad
He goes
wolf?
well, except he dies twice then, because the pigs burn him
Oh yeah.
in the story,
Oh, that's interesting. And then the lumberjack goes after.
and then the huntsman cuts him
Yeah.
open.
Jesus.
He's just reading this one guy who's probably like super nice and like he like does charity work and
Yeah, he works with kids. That's why he has a Looney Tunes
Yeah.
tattoo, and now he's like
Oh, no.
abducting an old woman in her van. Yeah.
Just a very nice guy. That's all.
Oh,
Just
no.
a super nice and my friend, on the other hand, you don't want to make him upset.
I don't know if you noticed this, but as someone who's been on set and seeing like kids get directed and stuff,
Mhm,
like this little girl, as she's watching, she's doing this little kid thing where sometimes they get stuck in a pose and you kind of get them to stop doing it. Like she was kind of doing one of these, like the
The
face
double chin.
back
Like,
into the neck thing.
Yeah.
this is a spooky face, right?
And I could just like imagine the director being like, "Can you not do that?" But she's like, "But to a kid, it's like I'm already doing it. I'm not going to stop doing it."
Yeah.
This is my character. You don't
Yeah.
understand, actually. I had the characters had actually this really big backstory and the super deep character development work she's done. She can't just get out of.
Can you put your chin? Can you put your chin out? My character wouldn't do that.
Listen, you're gonna have to call my agent if you want me to change.
It's like, what's his name from Back to the Future? It's just like, stop opening the door like that. It's
I
like,
mean,
no,
that-
that character wouldn't open
This
it.
is a thing, though, that Supernatural, as like a show,
Mm-hmm.
must contend with all the time. How many episodes hinge on like kids
Yeah.
or stuff like that? You know, either to be afraid and portray that, or to know too much, or to be a ghost, or to like. There's a lot of like story stuff that happens in different episodes that like depends on children. And specifically this season really hinges on kids as the season goes
I didn't
on.
even think about that. Yeah.
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 That feels like a thing that is both like it's a horror thing, so it's like of course that's in there.
Yeah. Kids.
But
are
also it feels
terrifying.
like you're making your job so much harder,
Yeah,
like
I think so.
as producers, to be like, we got to find enough kids that can act.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not only that, but you kind of because kids can only work for a certain amount of hours.
Yeah.
So many twins. Oh my god.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the workaround, I
Yeah,
guess. Yeah.
shuffle them out. Yeah.
Twins. So they're walking around the hospital with the doctor, and as they're talking about the daughter's condition, they find out that she had swallowed bleach, which led to her condition. Which also, does bleach do that? Because like,
Put you in a coma?
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a
I
doctor.
don't think so.
Excuse me. Oh, it comes out here.
Yeah.
That's how it stops COVID. It just puts you in a coma and you miss 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of the same thing.
How can you be sick if you're asleep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I've been saying that to myself forever.
Found the loophole.
Yeah. So as they separate from the doctor, Sam and Dean just talk about how they're convinced the condition and the conclusion of this was that the stepmother must have poisoned, because they find out that they had a stepmother, that she's the one who brought her to the hospital. Everything was fine until that, and they're just like, well, the red apple,
Just so fucked up.
yeah. Really, really messed up. Dean says about Callie, could be like Misha Barton's Sixth Sense, not OC. Christopher Cousins, who played Dr. Garrison, was actually in an episode of The OC with Misha Barton in 2003.
Oh.
Interesting.
So
That's
I don't
fun.
know if that was
Also
intentional.
in Breaking Bad.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
That's what it is. Sam refers to it as Munchausen syndrome.
Yeah.
Munchausen syndrome is, by proxy, is a psychiatric disorder wherein a person feigns, exaggerates, or induces illness in another, usually a parent or a child, to gain attention or some other benefit.
Yeah.
They assume that Callie's spirit has been.
Did anyone else like know or was familiar with the phrase of Munchausen syndrome because of Eminem lyrics?
No.
No.
I think it's in Cleaning Out My Closet.
Oh.
As soon as I hear Munchausen syndrome, I'm like, victim of Munchausen syndrome. I'm putting it like in the.
Awesome.
God, how did you get?
I
So
love
cool?
stuff like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they basically they say that Callie's spirit has probably become really mad and is acting out in these fairy tales that keep getting told to her in an attempt to get attention.
Yes.
In The Sixth Sense, Misha Barton also plays a girl who is killed by her mother from drinking bleach, just like Callie.
That's right.
So another victim is brought to the hospital, an old woman. They then try to go to save her granddaughter, because they find out that this is the woman that was attacked by what seemed like the wolf from the previous one.
Well, and they're like, what story was just being
Yes.
read? So they're like, there's a granddaughter involved. Dean's like, I'll go do that.
Yeah, he's going to go try to...
Good job, Kelly, for like trying to get attention from your dad by like doing these things away from your dad.
That
You can't see them.
That, and also like there's a piece that's not really addressed in this episode, which is that in other episodes the ghost will also go after people who do wrong, like the one with the priest ghost. He thought he was doing God's mission. He was killing people that did wrong or things like that. Callie just fully is like taking, like, this wolf guy is not a bad guy. Like, we see it later when he kind of gets out of it.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, you're a murderer now. This old woman's going to carve a guy up.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't know, maybe the stepmother was right.
Yeah,
like
she needed to get put down.
You saw it.
She saw like the Damien Omen shit in this kid and was like, here's some juice to drink.
She saw the girl like carving up like animals in the backyard for like fairy tale scenes.
And they don't really dig into that at all. It's kind of messed up, actually.
We then see, we go flash to a young girl getting out of school in a red hoodie and going to her grandmother's minivan, the one we had seen the wolf take for previous. And she says like, hi, grandma, but it is not her grandma.
I forgot details of this episode. I was fully disappointed that this guy wasn't wearing a fake grandma wig. Like, that he wasn't... Yeah, that he wasn't trying to pull off the like, oh, I'm your grandmother. Like, fully disappointed that that's not what happened here.
And for her to buy it for a second?
Yeah.
Hello, dear.
I was legitimately upset that he didn't turn around with like fake glasses, like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, hello. Of course, she is deceived, just like Red Riding Hood. Fearing another attack, Dean takes off to find her, leaving Sam to explain their suspicions to Dr. Garrison. He rejects Sam's assertions at first, though, but does admit that he has seen his daughter's spirit.
Yeah, Sam's like, your wife did this. And he's like, you're an asshole, get out of my hospital. And then Sam comes in and closes the door and goes, your daughter's a ghost. And he goes, oh, you've seen her too. And you're like, oh, you can almost see the moment for Sam where he's like, oh, thank God I don't have to explain ghosts.
Well, because he even says, he's like, I don't have time to deal with this. Like,
It's like, oh, thank God you're already on board.
yeah. Oh God, this is usually an hour conversation.
Putting the pamphlets away.
Yeah.
I've got to call the guy that cleaned up that old lady's house. He has to come in and explain it to you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he does admit that he also has seen the daughter's spirit. Meanwhile, Dean finds the young girl, but is attacked by the big bad wolf.
This is a big fight.
It's a really, really big, long fight.
Yeah.
It's kind of impressive. I mean, the stunt work in these first few seasons especially are incredible.
But, you know, like being thrown like into like shelves and stuff like that. Like it's a pretty...
Over and over again, too.
Yeah. It's a pretty intense fight. Yeah.
Dr. Garrison is now distraught by Sam's story that his wife has poisoned to his daughter. The doctor still refuses to believe that the stepmother did this, though. He's like, yeah, okay, sure, ghosts are real, but I still don't believe that this like woman poisoned my daughter, even though she mysteriously got sick. Yeah, and I don't know why.
I only believe reasonable things like ghosts.
Yes. Look, I may even stretch to believe that these are all fairy tale based crimes, but
because the other piece of this is that Callie's body is being kept alive.
Yes.
But like she's not going to come back, which is why we sort of have this half ghost thing happening.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. She's sort of in between, right? So the doctor goes and asks his daughter straight up, pulling her spirit from the fight with Dean over back to the hospital. She then appears in spirit form and sort of just nods and confirms that yes, the mother did do this, and he accepts that truth. At that moment, his daughter then dies. The right there just like flatlines. Is that hard for you?
I was just going to say, I agree with Shoshana, which is like, how long was she going to keep this up? And how was this going to get back to her dad?
I know.
If her end game is, I need dad to know that his bitch second wife killed me. Then also, she's killing unrelated people and not just constantly appearing for him.
Also, did the ex-wife die? Like,
yes. They said that she died like a year ago. But like, did the ghost kill her?
Oh, that's an interesting fact that we haven't thought about.
Oh, yeah.
Did the ghost summon her 7 short friends to chase her off a cliff?
Yeah, he's like, now that you mention it, there were a lot of dwarves.
Yeah, some guy in a pumpkin head and a horse like chopped off her head.
The headless horseman, we're working that in.
Yeah, normal stuff that happens in this town.
Crazy.
This is the Once Upon a Time town. That's what we find out.
Yeah, that was the spinoff.
Yeah, some snowman that came to life killed her. Like,
I agree with Shoshana though. This was a bad plan.
Yeah,
as far as ghost plans go.
Kind of like an 8-year-old kid plan, maybe,
Yeah, fair.
That's true.
So as the daughter dies, the spirit disappears. Now at rest, the man attacking Dean returns also to his normal self.
Like,
just as like
right
Dean's
before
about to
Dean
kill him.
stabs him with scissors, like the huntsman cut him open.
Yeah, that's right. And he's fully like, what's going on, man?
He's about to get sent to prison for like.
I was in line for the Peace Corps. What?
Yeah, it's like,
oh man.
I have good news and bad news. Good news, I'm not going to stab you with these scissors. Bad news,
you ate an old lady.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't they Buffalo Bill him? He should have been wearing her clothes.
Or her skin.
Or her skin.
Oh
face.
no.
Yeah. My great big grandmother.
Oh, it puts itself inside the minivan.
Jesus Christ.
As Sam and Dean then say farewell to Dr. Garrison, he regrets that he couldn't let Callie go earlier, something that Dean suggests that Sam should also do. Forget Callie, but let go of this whole tirade to try to save Dean.
Well, because they're both laying it on pretty thick with each other, like earlier with Kyle Pigman.
Yes. Kyle Pigman. I like that you keep changing the name.
Yeah.
Earlier with him, he's like, you have no idea what it's like to lose a brother. And Sam's like, I bet it's the worst thing in the world. And Dean's like, yeah, all right.
Fucking Jesus Christ, you passive aggressive bitch. That night, Sam sneaks out of the motel room and summons the Crossroads demon. She taunts him at suggesting part of him will be relieved when Dean dies.
Yeah.
The Dean mentions that Ruby, sorry,
Paging Dr. Freud.
yeah. The Dean mentions that Ruby is such a pain in my ass.
Yeah.
Ironically, that demon is played by an actress called Sandra McCoy, who was Jared Padalecki's girlfriend and soon-to-be fiance at the time.
What?
That's right. The irony is, after ending this relationship with McCoy, Padalecki then eventually does marry an actress who plays a future version of Ruby that we'll see in a later season.
Yeah, interesting.
He's just all tied up with these demons.
Life is demon girls.
Yeah, Sam's got a type.
Look, if that involves like a bossy, powerful woman, me too. Also, both Jared Padalecki and Sandra McCoy starred in Cry Wolf, a movie from 2005.
Interesting.
Wolf, too. Also, huge connections here. So, he threatens her with the cult, but she explains that killing her won't break Dean's deal. And he's like, no, I want the cult fixed. And she's like, but you already have the cult fixed. Like, I don't understand why we're here.
He's like, but TV Guide said that's what I was doing here. He just fully looks down the barrel of the camera, right? Is that why I'm here?
But she mentions that the contract is held by a demon more powerful than her, which is the first time that we've really ever gotten this type of information.
We're getting more
hierarchy
of the demon bureaucracy thing.
I love it.
Yes.
Give me more administration and bureaucracy.
Yes.
I love it. But Sam just straight cold shoots her anyways, killing the demon and the young woman that it was possessing.
I will say, we talked about it for last week's episode, but it also comes up in this one. When the demon knife that we saw in the first episode kills demons, they do like the electric short out thing and die. Same thing when they killed the vamp or when they killed Azazel with the Colt. Yeah. But this new like refurbished Colt, doesn't it feel like it's like it's like Kylo Ren's lightsaber, where it's like it's on, but it also looks like it could explode at any moment. Like I feel like the demon death effect from last episode and this episode is like way more painful looking since they refurbished the Colt.
Yeah,
like it feels like when you jury rig like a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's the end of this episode.
Holy shit!
So, Shoshana, you are our guest. Why don't you give a bit of a summation of what you thought about this episode and some sort of ranking of 5 whatevers you'd like?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be 5 stars. Could be 5 something else.
Yeah.
4 pies out of 5.
Oh. What are your overall thoughts about this episode?
I really liked it. I mean, it's definitely classic Supernatural, so it was fun to do a rewatch of it. It's a lot of like the supernatural tropes that I, missed and remembered. You got the brother dynamic. I really, really liked it. And of course, I like any like dark twist on fairy tales and stuff. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I really, really like this episode. I think I like it when it plays into the camp of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think that's also why it disappoints me when it doesn't go all the way. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but like, you just needed, I think, one more beat in the Little Red Riding Hood story. Because part of the story is that it takes a sec. So even without changing too much of the episode, it feels like from the outside of the van, we should see like, a ring that she always wore. You know what I mean? Like, draw attention to something. So from the outside, she's like, that's definitely grandma in the front. And then she gets in and she's like, oh shit, it's not grandma. But it feels like there's actually like a beat missing.
Yeah.
Because those beats aren't missing from the pigs or from Hansel and Gretel. And then also my issue with this episode is that while it's fun to do this thing, the logic of why the thing is happening makes 0 sense.
Yeah, that is
like
true.
The whole ghost plan is nothing at all. And also, I think this kid was evil because it's not like A, the ghost plan doesn't draw her dad's attention, which is her end game.
Yeah.
B, she's not going after people who are already bad. Like, it's not like we hear about the Hansel and Gretel thing. They go investigate and they're like, turns out they found a bunch of bodies in the basement. It's not like this woman was doing this and then the fairy tale draws attention to it. So it's like, now this ghost is just hurting people, and for what? Like, and if the stepmom is dead, why aren't we tying that in? Why isn't it like more definitive that like that's what this kid did?
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, a bunch of guys on motorcycles chased her off the road or something like that. You know, like bring in the dwarf thing somehow. And I think that I enjoy the episode. It's a lot of fun to watch, but when you pull the thread, unlike other episodes of Supernatural, this one feels like it unravels real quick.
Like maybe if the dad had something to do with why she's in a coma, and he's like continuing to read her these stories because maybe he like wants her to stay a little girl or whatever.
Yeah,
I
she's
think so.
Pissed off to act out, you know.
I do wonder.
I agree. I think it needed the loop closed a little bit tighter.
I think they were just heading really close to the Striga thing, and which is maybe why they didn't want to make it the Doctor.
Right, that's true too.
I
that's
think
fair. The Striga episode was like that.
I think that's a potential. So what are you giving this episode?
I think I'll give this like 3 fully warped pieces of 3.5 fully warped pieces of wood.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's a lot lower than I would have thought.
It's a good episode, but it really falls apart quick, and it like in the way that the logic of some other kind of notoriously somewhat disappointing episodes of Supernatural do. This one is more fun when it is fun than like Bugs or something.
Yeah.
But I think it has the same problems.
Yeah, I can understand that. The scene with that old woman in the woods.
Yeah.
That holds a lot of weight for me. That thing has stuck with me for a real long time when I talk about this show. It's such a great, like, super dark thing. It's a thing that Supernatural does that almost no other thing does, which is that, like, super dark, like, horror with, like, really funny, like, meta and, like, fun bits, right? Like, nobody's, like, very rarely has anybody been able to. I mean,
we even talked about it the other week that, like, episode 2 of this season goes from Dean being like, am I the father? And this little kid, like, acting like Dean, smash cut to woman drowns her daughter in a car. Like,
it's the type of darkness that, like, even something like like Doom Patrol and The Boys, like, definitely, like, can balance the humor and the craziness and stuff like that. But it's like this horror element that that's like they're afforded the ability to be able to do that because they have so many episodes, right? And they can do so much, and they can do all these parodies, and it's of the time when they're doing a lot of this serialized television that's sort of the monster of the week thing, right? That the format so perfectly sets them up to be able to do stuff like this that I think it's the reason why they're one of the only ones that exist that exactly work like this, which is why I love Supernatural. And I think that when this episode, like, the moments when you're getting the exact tie-in, it's like, this is the scary thing and it's connected to this to this fairy tale.
Right.
When you just cut it out and are just showing those scenes, I think it really, really works.
Yes.
It's the pieces tying it all together that sort of don't work for this.
Absolutely.
I think I am going to give this 4 out of 5 Oinkensteins.
That's their last name now.
I was hoping for something German.
Oinkensteins.
Yeah. It's us, Jack, Emmett, and Kyle Oinkenstein. I think in my head, pigs have German accents.
Yeah. Isn't that just, like, known?
Yeah. Why is that, though?
German sausage, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Because it shouldn't track.
Also,
the pig in Animal Farm is called Napoleon. He shouldn't
Dieter?
be German. Yeah.
Simpsons, maybe?
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, just a happy little roly-poly German.
Oh, yes, I'm just a little pig. Oh, yeah.
Oink, oink, oink.
Oh, try my bacon. Oh, ouch.
Yes. Just don't speak poorly to my friend.
Good Lord. Wow. We did it.
What an incredible episode. Shoshana, thank you so much for coming on here. I'm so happy to have you on here to talk about this. You are a great Twitter follow. So maybe if you want to tell people about where they can find you online and if you've got anything you want to promote right now.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, Shoshana Sachi, first name, last name, super easy. Or you can just, hashtag Doom Patrol and you'll find me on Twitter. What do I want to promote? Well, today I just watched Suicide Squad last night. So good.
Same. We also just watched it last night. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And it's like this hero rat thing that they do in disenfranchised countries, fields and stuff like that. And these rats go out and sniff out mines and save people. So that's my favorite charity at the moment. So if you feel inspired by Ratcatcher, please go check them out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's incredible. No.
It was so hard for me not to speak like that during this episode. I'm so
we have been just talking to each other like that. Up until yes. So good.
Amazing.
We love book.
Thank you again for joining us, Shoshana. That's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's it for this week. If you have a note about something that maybe we missed on this episode, a past or a future one, or you just want to say hi to us online, you can send us an email.
Yep, ghostfacerspodcast@gmail.com.
Or reach out to us on all of the social media platforms.
Yeah, we're at Ghostfacerspod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe so you can get our episodes automatically in your feed every week. Give us a 5-star review on all the podcast platforms. If it's not an Apple Podcast, you just send us a photo of it and we'll read it on an actual future episode. And we've got merch. It's a thing we don't talk about enough, but we've got merch. You can buy our merch at Ghostfacers Podcast Store .com.
And I might go get one.
Yes. Hell yeah. And we've got some really fun first season Hungarian titles shirt. That is really funny because there were some bonkers titles from Hungary in that first season. And we've got another podcast that Shoshana was on. Go if you liked this episode with Shoshana, of course you did, because Shoshana's great. Go listen to that episode about Doom Patrol.
Yeah, go check out the Dr. DC podcast. Yes, specifically check out the episode Podcast Patrol that Shoshana was on. We talked about Doom Patrol. That was a ton of fun. But if you like the sort of thing we do here and talking about the lore of things and how things work
and
the occasional cum joke, then check out the Dr. DC podcast. It's a lot of fun. You don't need to know anything. It's for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Shoshana, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye,
Good night,
bitch.
sorry.
Sure. This was a Brain Freeze podcast.
I'm sad.
What?
I'm happy. Chew.
Oh, that's not where I thought that was going.
I'm coming.
Are you, do I have the dwarves here? Are you the dwarves?
Yeah.
You don't have a thing you're going to be doing here?
thing.
You just walked into...
Do you know what?
Yeah.
Do you know what my thing is?
What?
I'm asleep right now.